Well, hey, everybody, welcome Fractional Connections. I'm Nancy Fox, co-founder of Fractional Connections, and I've got a very special guest with me today. She's going to share her wisdom, her knowledge, and her experience. Kristin McGarr, welcome. She's of Adroit Insights. I'm so excited to talk to you today because we're going to talk about your fractional CSMO experience and your journey, and you're going to share with us a very important strategy that you developed so that you can have an additional revenue stream. And I think that's something that isn't talked about very much in the fractional community. So we're looking forward to getting to know more about you and sharing it with our community. Excellent. So welcome, Kristin.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to talk with you today.
So first of all, it's very exciting because Kristin happens to be in Maui, Hawaii, which I think that's still on my bucket list. So I can't wait to get there. Maybe I'll get a chance to visit you on your turf one day. Perfect. But I want to ask you, there are so many people who are at different stages of their fractional business career. Some people are just considering it. Some people are veterans, and some people they're at scale up time. Just give us a little sense about how you got started as a fractional CSMO and what brought you to this place. How'd you get here? Just like the Cliff Notes.
Sure. Yeah. So, I had been working somewhat fractionally, not understanding that it was fractionally ever since 2010, and didn't have a term behind it at the time. I love the fact that we actually have a title to give ourselves now, which is fantastic. But really what it was is, I was doing a lot of work remote, and I had started off working with franchisors and all of the other franchisees that they had, and discovering that even with a franchise model where everyone should be the same, it's all a whole bunch of entrepreneurs with unique ideas that are all trying to fit into one little bubble. But at the end of the day, you're running so many different businesses. So I took that experience and what I was doing with that for years. One point thought about, hey, let me just go and get, a regular sales job somewhere, director, VP for, some hotel group, something. And the more I thought about it, the more I go, I love being independent. I love being able to also help so many more businesses than just one. And that for me was the biggest clincher. Was I was seeing businesses in my neighborhood, in my community that were going under after, 7-10 years in business, and trying to figure out why and what I could do to make a difference for them. And that's really where I started doing the fractional CSMO work that I'm doing, is to help those small to mid-sized businesses when they're in their various phases of growth, make sure they can overcome those hurdles and they can survive and get beyond.
I haven't seen very many fractionals blending the sales and the marketing. Usually we see a fractional CMO or a fractional sales officer. How did you find your way to blending the two, and how did you market it?
Yeah, so when it comes to it, it was really, it happened just organically. Things got thrown at me. Someone's like, hey, can you do this? We don't have anyone who can do this. And I think that happens with a lot of people. I feel like that happens a lot with marketers. Every marketer I talk to seems like they're the one that everything just gets thrown at. They're like, you seem like you're capable of this. And so it kind of comes about naturally that way. But I did start to learn a lot more about marketing when there was just a need for it in the companies I was supporting. What I discovered about marketing was that it requires expertise. It requires someone who knows what's happening every day. How is Google changing their algorithms? What's LinkedIn doing now? And it's so important to be an expert in that regard, that I look at it from a strategy perspective, right? I know enough to understand how to put together the strategy, but bring in outside resources that specialize in the day-to-day implementation of it. And when it comes to the strategy, the reason why I started to blend them was because if marketing is operating in a silo, independent from sales and even independent from operations, we're not going to be as successful as we need to be. Whereas this way, if we've got marketing, sales, operations all synced together, it helps a lot. So sometimes I'll go into an engagement just as a CSO, because there's already a CMO in place, and we'll work hand in hand together. Other times, if there's a gap and there isn't one, I'll fulfill that need temporarily until we can bring in a full-time CMO, or even a fractional CMO to then go and fulfill that.
Seems like the companies that bring you in for both, they get the bargain. I don't know if that's how you position yourself with them, that you're sort of, no, how do you work it with them?
Yeah, I really don't. Again, it usually comes about organically. I really do go in with the focus of the fractional CSO. I prefer sales, but for sales to be effective, marketing has to be in place. And so a lot of times it is, I come in there, figure out what really needs to be done and get the big picture, and then just bring in the right resources to then be the additionals that come in. A little bit less of, not quite the whole, hey, bargain 2-for-1 sort of a situation.
Right. I mean, but I think like business owners sometimes think, oh, you know how they think, sometimes they don't really understand how to use a fractional very well. Like they get the idea, oh, I can get high class, first class expertise and talent at not a full tab, but I don't know that they really know how to leverage, how to use that talent very well. Sometimes, they'll ask, you to do stuff that's not really strategic or higher level, which is really where I think most fractionals want to live.
It is. And I think the best way that, any business can use a fractional is use us for our network, use us for that high level expertise, but use us for our network. Fractionals, we stay connected. So I'll bring in a CMO that's going to get down into that, and they're going to have their entire network of SEO and SEM people. I'll bring in a CFO who's going to go and do that. So let us bring in our additional resources to help you grow out your company and develop it as needed.
I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because every single fractional executive that I've spoken to has said the same thing to us about what they really want out of fractional connections. So just to say that we're listening, and we believe that it really is such a great realization to know that we can cross-pollinate, cross-refer, and cross-create opportunities with each other. So I'm very excited to hear you say that. So at what point did you start to create this second revenue stream, which you're going to tell us about? When did that happen, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so it really happened, kind of back in 2010, when all of this started coming together. Again, before I had a term for it, I was working with sales teams, and everyone had a need, right? We needed some way that we were developing processes. We were looking at the strategy. We needed tools that we could use. Those tools being a CRM. Well, back in 2010, any of you who were using CRMs back then knew there was only a couple of big name players in the game. And most of us, those big players, it didn't work for us, right? We were too small. We're mom and pop shops, and it just wasn't going to work well. Over the years, a lot of great software and great tools have come about. And even those big players have started to put together tools that work for some of the smaller businesses. So what I did was, every client I was in with, it just happened to be that they're like, oh, you understand technology? Can you help us with this? So I'd talk strategy and say, hey, we've got to be able to, you want this reporting, you want these metrics, you want us to be able to manage to the pipeline, we want to follow the process. A software technology is going to help us do that. So I started just helping my clients put together CRMs as just part of our fractional engagement. And then from there, it grew, right? I discovered the fact that, one, I could help beyond just my fractional clients. I could help everybody else's fractional clients with this as well, right? Not just the people that bring me in as a FCSO need this. Everyone does. And so what we do is we build custom CRMs and ERPs for people. Now, I'm not building them from scratch. Back in 2010, we used to, but fortunately, over the last 5 years or so, we've been able to get away from building them from scratch, and now we just use off-the-shelf software, and we can customize it to meet your needs. Yep.
And you help them implement it as well.
Absolutely, and that's the biggest piece of it, is the implementation. It's the user adoption. You can get the greatest tool right off the shelf. You can have it set up so that it's supposed to do everything you want, but if your users aren't using it, you're not going to get anywhere. You're right where you were, except maybe a little bit less money in your pocket.
And in sales, I have found salespeople they want to sell. They don't want to deal with data and technology and spreadsheets and all that. They don't want that. They want to get out there and get the orders and get the business and get the clients and get the money and all that.
Yeah.
So how did you set up the business, and how does it interact with your fractional work? How do you, from a business structure viewpoint, how does it work? And do you see interpretations for other areas of fractional work that other people could think about to use as recurring revenue streams?
Sure, yeah. So for a while, I just kept it all in one, right? Within Adroit Insights, we were also offering, CRM support, and it would just be an ad hoc add-on, right? We do this project, we're doing your fractional work, but we're going to bring in this extra product that we're going to do, this project we're going to do for a certain time period, get your CRM set up and move on. The more I was doing it, the more I realized I needed other expertise. I started reaching out to other fractional CSOs that happened to work in manufacturing or hospitality and tourism, and we started partnering together. And they had a technology affinity like I did. They were great with processes, and so we started working together on this. And that's how Infinite Insights, the additional company, came about, was from the combination of us bringing that in and focusing from that technology perspective. And so now I really do bring them on as separate engagements, right? When we're going to do that, we're going to say, okay, we're going to create a project. It's going to be a totally separate thing. I'm going to continue doing my fractional CSMO work the way that I'm doing, but we're also going to be running this project simultaneously with the team there. The way I see this for other fractionals, the biggest thing to look for is, what are your clients constantly asking you for, right? Like, what is the stuff, what comes up over and over and over again? What's that repeated thing? For me, it was CRMs or some sort of technology, some sort of way to track our metrics and get good reporting and make sure everybody was being consistent, right? So that for me was how it naturally came about to be able to create this other line. So, whether CFO, CMO, COO, think about what are those things, like, what is it that is consistently coming up with your clients over and over again that you can make repeatable, right? We can only sell so much of our own time, but what can we do? How does that translate into something else that is now this recurring revenue stream that you can have ongoing, that you can bring in other resources, not as advanced as you are in your skill set, but you can bring them in and have them do the work.
That is what I love to, if I had a big yellow highlighter, I would be saying recurring revenue. And I think that that's something, because you said it so beautifully and so succinctly, that there's only so much of your time that you can sell. I just got off a call with a client who has just got another client and he is in demand, and it's all great, except that he's working, if he keeps doing these assignments away, he's just going to work harder than he ever did when he was a full-time executive. And that's not the idea here. The idea here is to do the amount of work that you really want with the variety that you want and the right clients that you want, but also be able to build your own income level where you don't have to just show up on, be there for them in order to generate that business. So I think it was really brilliant of you to recognize it, to develop it. And boy, I would love to see our community think about this and really get serious about this strategy. So what tip would you give other fractionals to avoid certain pitfalls? What's the one tip you'd give them about generating a recurring revenue stream?
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest pitfall that I fell into, and it took a couple of years to dig out of it, actually, was building a recurring revenue stream, but still being the only one to deliver on it, right? It was that challenge of letting go. As a fractional, we are used to, like, hey, we're the main player in the game. It's our years of expertise. It's that information that's coming in, and understanding really what to delegate out and what can be done elsewhere. And I was part of entrepreneur organization for several years before I moved. And one of the great things with that program was we went through a worksheet, which was literally, we just wrote down, what are the things you love doing and what are the things you don't really enjoy? And it was hilarious because as soon as I wrote it down, I go, everything I don't really enjoy, I can easily find somebody else to go do that. So I just went and started hiring a bunch of people that was on their what I enjoy list. And it just happened to be on my what I don't enjoy. And we ended up creating a great team of people to be able to jump in. So think about those things that some days you're like, oh gosh, like I don't want to get up and do this today. Those are the things that maybe you should be creating a side business for and have somebody else do.
I love it. It's great advice. Delegation delegation, and the right time to do it. Like instead of waiting where you're in burnout mode already, and then a lot of times people just give up because they think it's just too much work. But, it does take, we tend to wait too long, and we are in too much pain, and then we're suffering. So I think it's great advice. So I'm really so excited that you were available to share your experience and your expertise and your wisdom with us and with this community as we are growing. So where can people find you? How can they reach you?
Yes, so I am on LinkedIn, Kristin McGarr on LinkedIn, or you can look up adroitinsights.com. Great way to reach me there, and all my contact info is out there. My cell, everything is publicly available, so if anybody wants to reach me, it's pretty easy to get in touch.
Fantastic. So, and by the way, just so you'll know, we're having a networking event on June 30th, and I hope you'll be there. But if not, we'll definitely connect you with Kristin. If you can't be there, we'll make sure that you get in touch with her if you want to learn more, if you want to network with her, if you want to help her build her network, and you can build yours at the same time. We'll make sure that we do that. So, Kristin, thank you so much for your time. I loved getting to know you. I'm so excited to learn from you, to network with you, and to share ideas with you. So thanks for being with us, and we'll see you everybody next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nancy.